Mark Twain was famous for saying, "Everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it." Well, obviously, to control the weather, you'd have to have superpowers. A simple thunderstorm has more energy than a hydrogen bomb.
What she was doing was she was looking at the way that the dust the towers turned into it actually floated into the upper atmosphere, and she was looking for satellite pictures of the plume. And on one of those satellite pictures, she discovered something she didn't expect to see.
Looking at where the dust went up, the dust seems to, fumes go up. I thought I'd get some weather satellite images. What was this I saw? There was a hurricane. I discovered this huge hurricane the size of Katrina right outside of New York City on 9/11.
The tracking Hurricane Aaron, I guess it's just sort of blowing out into the ocean right now.
Fizzling, don't you think? It looks like it won't, it'll just continue to fizzle as it moves north.
There is indeed hurricane action today.
Here's this huge hurricane right off the coast of New York City.
It is forecast, though, to continue to turn away from land.
And we've got Hurricane Aaron. This is Aaron right here. This is Aaron. Hey, Weller, look who's here, Mr. Peanut.
And a cold front that moved through is really going to help deflect Hurricane Aaron.
It is forecast to continue, though, as we said, though, to push away from land.
Or they moved it and did 9/11 along with it.
You can see on the edge of your screen here, this is the outer bands here of Hurricane Aaron. Looks dangerously close to the U.S. mainland.
A lot of people, you even mention it to them, and they say, prove it.
The only effect really it does have is some large sea swells along the beaches. The cold front that moved through the area is going to help kind of deflect Aaron, as you see it here, more toward Nova Scotia.
It's moving north. Look for riptides and heavy swells along the northeastern Atlantic coast.
We're going to have just a beautiful day today. It is affecting the U.S., the eastern coastline, in the form of some pretty large seas. Watch the posted areas if you are planning to hit the beach in the days ahead, because it could be several days that we'll have these dangerous rip currents. Tonight, under clear skies, all will be quiet. We do have a hurricane that's just off the coast.
And you'll see that we've got clear skies throughout much of the country.
Why weren't people given a warning that there's this Hurricane Aaron there?
If you look at the Hurricane Erin data, all this talk of climate change, whether it's man-made, whether it's sunspots, whether it's whatever it is, you have to factor in what happened with Hurricane Erin, because that is categorical clear evidence of some type of weather control.
That's another story. What this book is a lot of evidence of what happened. I don't have all the answers. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I find some very interesting things. This is right outside of New York City on the morning of 9/11. It was even raining at Cape Cod. This hurricane for 4 days straight was going towards New York City. Most unusual to have a hurricane running perpendicular to land. They usually swoop up the East Coast. Wind speed, air pressure, and the location were pretty much constant for 24 hours surrounding the events of 9/11.
If there was a hurricane, a Category 1, a 2, how about a 3, approaching your city, do you think that the media would tell you?
How many people realized we had a huge hurricane right outside of New York City on 9/11?
If only a hurricane had come on 9/11.
There was actually a hurricane happening right outside New York during the bringing down of the towers. What is that about?
There was a big hurricane on the morning of 9/11 just off the coast.
There's that shot from space where you see the hurricane and you see the smoke coming up out of the WTC.
This was on 9/11.
A hurricane such as Aaron could be so devastating to Manhattan, it would make 9/11 look like a picnic.
And you could see from the data that it went in a straight line for 4 days.
For 4 days it was going straight towards Manhattan, no land masses in between. Stopped.
Gorgeous weather today and for the next several days. Rain yesterday afternoon, now well offshore, just a little bit making its way off the Outer Banks. No rain today or tomorrow. Cloud cover, too, with that cold front is making its way offshore, too. So we're going to have just a beautiful day today.
It was commented that 9/11 was a fantastic 1 in 1,000 day, you know, beautiful clear skies, no clouds, clement conditions, you know, wonderful day. But people didn't talk about the hurricane.
Take a look at the highlights for today. New York City, beautiful day here, 80 degrees today. St. Louis, 83.
They had the weather forecasters on the news speaking about how sunny it was in the area. Shouldn't they say, oh, it's sunny, but there is a hurricane?
Look for possible flooding in southern Texas, central and southern Florida, where the rain will be heavy.
We've got 4 morning weather outlooks from 9/11.
None of them on their weather maps show Hurricane Erin.
In fact, if you look at one of the weather maps, you can see it says rough seas on it, but it doesn't show the hurricane.
Weather over Manhattan is nice as can be. But here's what should have been shown. About 10 minutes to 15 minutes before the events of 9/11 began, this is what the weather chart looked like. Now I've superimposed where the hurricane should have been. This is the approximate size of the hurricane and the location at that moment. The cloud cover of the outer bands of the hurricane are raining on Cape Cod. They're that close.
For today, we've got a lot of cool weather in the northern states. We've got some hot weather continuing in the southwest and 80s as you get into the southeast with a lot of rain, up to 7 inches of rain in parts of Florida. Partly sunny in the Pacific Northwest. Seattle today, sunshine and 75. Sunny in the northeast and low humidity. Speaking of hair, what's the deal here?
Some of them talk about Hurricane Erin. ABC, for example, didn't mention Hurricane Erin, didn't mention a hurricane at all, didn't have it on the map, didn't even talk about the cold front or discuss it. Fox News was the best, actually.
We're going to have just a beautiful day today. This is a real cold front, folks. That means it's a boundary line of the very cool, dry air, and it is going to make its way well offshore, help to push Hurricane Erin up to the north. It's not going to affect us at all.
They mentioned it by name, but it was nothing to worry about. It's heading out of town, but they focused a lot on this high-pressure system. And it was a real serious high-pressure system, folks, you know. And it was moving in. And for 4 days, it was going in a beeline straight for New York City.
Kind of slowed down, it kind of stalled.
It pulled right up just outside New York City, like it pulled up to a chalk line and stopped at 8 a.m. on 9/11.
Suddenly, it takes a sharp right turn and scoots off out into the Atlantic.
Literally reported for duty, and then it went off.
Approximately 500 miles in diameter, Hurricane Erin was approximately the same size as the later Hurricane Katrina, and yet the public was not widely alerted to it.
If there's a storm looming right outside of town, you should be concerned how long it's going to be there because of the storm surges.
It could have flooded Manhattan, but this wasn't reported. This wasn't reported as a risk.
Erin came closest to New York City on 9/11 itself.
The storm was the biggest at around 8 a.m. that morning. Not necessarily the fastest. It covered a wider area. Weather stations love to milk these things for all they can get. That would be huge news.
That would be all over the radio and TV all morning long.
Don't you want to tell people they might need to evacuate just in case? It was so played down that nobody knows that there's a hurricane there.
Curiously, they had scientists from 10 different universities actually doing measurements on Hurricane Erin.
If you look at the speed of the hurricane, the pressure of the eye of the hurricane, and its location, for about 24 hours, 12 hours at either side of the events of 9/11, it's constant. It's like a very controlled environment.
I want to show you, though, just to the east of New York, what our satellites were picking up September 11th, 2001. That is Hurricane Erin. At the time, it was a Category 1 hurricane. And if we look at what was happening just about 400 miles to the west of there in lower Manhattan, this is from our MODIS satellite from NASA. And you can actually, if you look very closely there in lower Manhattan, you can see the smoke coming down from the Twin Towers there on September 11th. That very brisk northerly flow, a cold front had moved through and deflected this hurricane from threatening, or at least getting to New York City, but you can still see the smoke there on our satellite. An incredible picture there in New York.
So you have 2 possible reasons for it being there. One is it was a coincidence, or it did have something to do with it.
What tells me that this was controlled was that there was no concern about how long that storm was going to stall out there. How could they be that sure of exactly when the hurricane was going to leave?
Nobody knows about this. Nobody knows about this hurricane.
Why weren't people given a warning unless they were so sure, 100% sure, of what that hurricane was going to do?
Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. This is mass madness, you maniacs. Turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
Mark Twain was famous for saying, "Everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it." Well, obviously, to control the weather, you'd have to have superpowers. A simple thunderstorm has more energy than a hydrogen bomb.
So you have two possible reasons for it being there. One is it was a coincidence, or it did have something to do with it.
What tells me that this was controlled was that there was no concern about how long that storm was going to stall out there. How could they be that sure of exactly when the hurricane was going to leave?
Nobody knows about this. Nobody knows about this hurricane.
Why weren't people given a warning unless they were so sure, 100% sure, of what that hurricane was going to do?
Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. This is mass madness, you maniacs. Turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now.